1-1 is how it ended, both teams having to share the points. Now let's hear from Mikel Arteta after the game.
I think it's very clear what we wanted to do. Very well we started the game. I think we completely dominated. I think after they scoring the goal without doing absolutely nothing before that, we were a bit shaky for 5 or 7 minutes, and after that we still got grip of the game again and start to dominate it. And the second half it was a continuation of that with one different player and then with 2 or 3 different players.
Could you just talk us through your thinking behind that midfield three?
No, we don't have time for that. There's a lot of things to do that.
But just a very basic analysis of what you thought that midfield three could do instead of maybe with
because I thought it was the best one to start the game.
Okay, Ed,
Nobody asked me about the midfield three in Bilbao. Nobody.
Well, I guess it's
Yeah.
It's a different game.
Yeah, that's why. But it's the same midfield.
So why did you keep it?
Because I believe it was the best thing for the team.
All right, Mikel Arteta there, looking a bit touchy there. Anyways, here is the top half of the Premier League standings. Ultimately, the team that benefited from this result the most was Liverpool. Arsenal there, 5 points behind the Reds. At this point now, let's welcome in Aage Fjortoft as well as Julien to speak about this one. But Stevie, I'm going to have to start with you. We just heard from Mikel Arteta. I did say he seemed a bit touchy there when they asked about his midfield. But overall, what did you make of his comments?
To be honest, the only comment I'm interested in is the midfield three.
Exactly.
You know, at the end of the day, he can talk all he wants about how they dominated and this and that, but he started the game to be strong. He didn't start the game to go and win the game. He just wanted to be strong. Instead of starting the game trying to win it, he was cautious.
Yeah.
You can't go and win the Premier League if you don't. You've got to go and win it. Nobody's going to hand it to you. You have to step on the field and use all the quality in the players you have to go and actually win the thing and get to the top of the table. And look at this lineup. You've got a guy like Aage sitting on the bench. Are you telling me that Moreno in the middle of the park is better than Aage?
Or Merino.
Or Moreno.
Easy mistake.
Oh, you were playing that.
That would have been a really tough decision by Arteta, let me tell you.
Oh, yeah.
And even if you want to go with his nonsense about, well, they were good in midweek, are you telling me Aage shouldn't be playing ahead of Trossard? I mean, it just makes no sense. It just shows that he was cautious. And it's backfired because it took them to make the changes in the second half. Madueke wasn't well. That's why Saka came on so early. And then he brings Aage on. And surprise, surprise, who plays that ball in behind for Martinelli from the middle of the park? Aage. I mean, there's your answer. There's what you got wrong. He should have started the game, should have started in the middle, and if not the middle, should have started in the wide areas. I mean, it's okay to start making forward substitutes when you've no choice, when you're behind. How about you go and win the game and let the opposition have all the problems, not bring it all on yourself? So, yeah, I think Arsenal got this 100% wrong and only have themselves, and actually Arteta only has himself to blame for starting the wrong team.
Jules, we speak about this now that Arsenal finally have all the players, the recruits, the squad to go after and win the big trophies. Talking about the Premier League, talking about the Champions League. And these games at home are the games that they need to win. Do you feel like he was too cautious in his approach to this one today too?
Yeah, maybe a little bit. It was all about that control. We said that after the Liverpool game away, and we were all of us on the show too. And this is why this midfield is often used by him, especially when Odegaard is out. Well, he has other options, definitely, as we've just explained, and as we saw when he made those changes at half-time. The problem when you have this kind of midfield there with less creativity, obviously, which could be a problem because against the City team that struggles sometimes between the lines defensively, then there was nobody to hit there. Rice was playing deeper. Moreno can't really play in that number 10 role on the half space on the right. So then you're left with you go down after 9 minutes and you don't really react because you can't create enough outside of Madueke, basically. And that's all that happened in the first half. The second half with Saka and Aage was obviously different. There was more variation. They put more pressure. They were higher up the pitch. And then there was even Martinelli and more changes. But it's true that you can go for control. It's no problem. You lack creativity, okay, but you can still win games, as we saw at Bilbao. The problem is when you find yourself one goal down against then the team that will refuse to play like City did, quite surprisingly in a way today, and just is happy to defend, then the lack of creativity becomes a problem.
Yeah, and you were at this game. What did you make of how Mikel Arteta handled it?
Well, it was a heavy night for everybody after the game as well, because there were two different managers, but same kind of approach to the game. Because it was quite interesting, because as we saw on the stats, I mean, who could believe, to be a bit devil's advocate, that Arsenal will have 66-34 in ball possession against Manchester City? You have to ask yourself, did City come there just to get that point? And it's funny to see that Arsenal don't create anything. We talked about this before. We saw that in Liverpool, and we've seen also stats that after the 22-23 season, if you compare the stats, wins and points and goals scored, goals conceded, Manchester City and Arsenal are similar. But the problem is that Manchester City have won 2 Premier League titles and 6 major trophies. So I think that when we talk about Arsenal, we talk about the way you need to risk something to win something. And I don't think Arteta do that. And I also think when Arteta tried to explain us that in interviews, or when he tries to explain us that in press conference, he is a bit annoyed that he doesn't go all the way. So I think that is the fact. Just some fun fact I will just give you. Just after the game, I spoke to Erling Haaland about that first goal when Reinders get the ball, and Erling told me that he was running after Reinders, and he said, wait. So he could pass him to get him in the right position. It's just a fun fact there, where we are so depressed of Arsenal not risking.
Just to the point that the guys are making now, when you look at Arsenal, and yes, they did get the draw in the end, but because they're the ones that got the late goal, it kind of feels like a victory of sorts. But overall,
For whom?
Was this an opportunity missed for them?
Yeah, no, this doesn't feel like a victory for Arsenal at all. A draw better than a loss, but not a victory. And yes, is it a missed opportunity? Of course it is. So the expectations for Arsenal are to be at the top of the table with Liverpool, not 5 points behind after 5 matches. And that's objectively where we are. Now, we can talk about the midfield 3 and the approach. Were they cautious? Did they not go after Manchester City? Should they have been more aggressive? I think to further the point and to make it actually more tangible, 35 minutes in, Arsenal hadn't really created clear goal-scoring opportunities. And while they had most of the possession and they had most of the ball, they weren't exactly goal dangerous, to the point that stadium felt almost like, okay, when are we going to get going? Because we want to get behind you, but you got to give us a reason to get behind you. We want to create this environment, but show us something. And the one player that was showing you something consistently was Noni Madueke, that every time he touched the ball, it was like, okay, I'm going to take a player on. I'm going to do something. Felt like he was the one player over the course of the first 35 minutes, and certainly over the course of the first 45 minutes, that had that intent. As the latter part of that first half went on, you began to see a shift in the way that Arsenal approached the game. And some of that shift came from the fact that Manchester City decided that, you know what, we are not going to go press over there. We're not going to go press over here. We're going to sit right here. And Manchester City, it's very surprising to see this, given what we have seen from Manchester City in years past and what we're used to watching. Was it Pep Guardiola coaching this team, or was it Jose Mourinho coaching this team? Because it was the approach of a Mourinho team. And the only reason I don't say this is Mourinho-esque is because Mourinho would have seen the game out 1-0 and they would have gotten 3 points out of it. What you saw from Manchester City at times is that whenever they even regained possession of the ball, they were not even looking to complete the first pass out. They were just clearing it to anywhere.
Yeah.
Everywhere would work. And that allowed Arsenal to have not only all the possession, but have all the momentum, because they no longer had the threat that was present in the goal by Erling Haaland. Once that threat went away, and they're now just kicking the ball anywhere. Arsenal are just building momentum on top, and eventually the stadium got behind Arsenal. The approach, yes, was not courageous enough, but the attitude itself of the group of not recognizing, man, these guys are barely hanging on. Let's get after them. Mm-hmm. You could feel it through the television screen. I have to imagine that the players have to feel it on the field as well.
I mean, just looking at that graphic, Stevie, it pretty much confirms what Ale was saying. It's almost, you're wondering if this is Pep Guardiola's Manchester City that we're watching. It's not just today's game. We saw in the game against Manchester United, they just had about over 40% possession. In this one, 36. It's like, is this really Pep Guardiola's Manchester City? But it's working for them.
I have to say that after this game, I had a strange feeling of respect for Guardiola.
Mm-hmm. Because finally he's found that plan B.
Well, because what he did was he coached the way the game was going. They were 1-0 up, and he could see that it was pointless having any forwards because they weren't getting the ball. So you know what? Let's get some strength on, and let's just hold on. And he did it. You know, none of this, I'm sticking to my principles and all. You know, we hear all that nonsense all the time about, if we're going to lose doing it my way and all this. No, he actually coached the game the way it needed to be. Because there wasn't any point in keeping Phil Foden on the field. I was a little unsure with the Haaland one, because defensively, he's good in the air. But he just went, you know what? Forget all the tactics, forget all these great coaching things I've been doing for 15 years, whatever it is. This is good old-fashioned defence. Get some big guys on, get some bodies on, let's shut up shop. Now, unfortunately, they didn't quite do it, they almost did it. But I've got to say, big respect. That's what coaching's about. You've got to coach for what's happening at that time, and he did it.
And it's what we criticized Pep Guardiola last season, and seeing that the team did not have the tools to do the things that they had done in the past, change, adjust. And it's what we saw today. But even as I agree with you, Steve, it's still jarring to see 5 defenders across the back line of Manchester City and see the 4 midfielders in front of them. I know, but like I said, the first thing I said is that I agree with you. But to see Aage and Stones and Ruben Diaz, I thought Vincent Kompany was going to come back. I thought Pablo Zabaleta was going to come back. Hey, is Akanji still here? They were bringing everybody behind the ball. It's what the game called for, but it's still, when you have the image of what Manchester City has been in the past, it's still a contrast that it's hard to get used to.
Jan?
I worked at this game, so after the game, I had to speak to Pep Guardiola, and we all saw that it was the deepest way he had played with a team since he coached under 17 back in Barcelona, I guess. So I went into them and asked him, what happened? That was a tactical, you were so deep. And then he looked at me, have you not seen the Arsenal transfer window? Have you not seen the players they've signed? They have a brilliant manager, they have a brilliant coach, and so on. And it was like unbelievable how sharp he was on that. I don't think he wanted to play that deep. I think he was play deep. There were times in this game, Erling Haaland played a sweeper, a libero for them. It was unbelievable. And we should be aware in our show, where sometimes when Arteta did that, I was on the show, remember back in the days, yes, there were 10 players. When they played at Etihad, we had to go at Arsenal to being too deep. And now we are giving compliment to Pep to being that deep. So I think we have to go both ways here. I think that yes, it was good to see. Yeah, no. That's what I hope. It would be so boring if we agree on everything. So I'm just saying that they were played very, very deep. And I think that, yes, it was a plan B. It was good to see Pep doing that. I think he would have been happy would just scrap that 1-0. But let's just make sure that he didn't try to do that. He was played deep in this game.
No, he was played deep, yeah. There's no way he wants to be that deep. But the way his team was playing, they were being forced to be that deep. But my respect is coming from a situation where he understood that wasn't changing. And so he took the situation as it was and did what he thought was the best thing to do. So he takes his forwards off and gets his trees and sticks them right in the middle of the ring. That's that for a guy who's done what he's done. the way his teams have played, you think of the Barcelona team, you think of City at the best. For a guy to just turn around and go, right, okay, we're getting the trees on. Stick him there,
Yeah, but
and nobody gets past.
Fair enough, Steve.
That was my point.
I understand your point, but still, we see Pep Guardiola, who has had a dream back in his heydays, and saying that he wanted 100% ball possession, and this time he was on 34 against Arsenal. So there's not only a good sign, and yes, he tried to get it over the line. And by the way, Erling Haaland asked to go out. Pep told us that he was asked to go out because he was tired, and he talked about Pep as well with his Manchester derby and then Napoli game, and now they're playing Arsenal. So it was a tough period, but I mean, it is a bit surprising, and it's amazingly, when we follow the coaching career of Pep Guardiola, that he has a ball possession of 34, 3-4. He must never have had that in his whole life.
Jules, I know it's been far from perfect performances from Liverpool, but they are perfect in the Premier League. They just keep finding a way. They are 5 points ahead of Arsenal now. Do you have any concerns about Arsenal's ability to catch up to them?
Yeah, of course. I think we should all have, because when you're 5 points behind after 5 games, that's already a lot of points. And they've played Liverpool already once. That was at Anfield. They will have a return fixture at the Emirates, where I guess at home you can make up a little bit of that gap. But 5 points in 5 games is already quite a lot, really. And Liverpool will get better. We've been saying that since the start of the season, because they are just too good to keep playing the way they are. At some point, the new players will be properly settling in. They'll have so many options on the bench, tactically, a lot of things that Slot can do. So I think that's quite worrying that after 5 games, you're 5 points behind if you're Arsenal, you're 8 points behind if you're City already. That's quite a lot now.